Alright guys, so today we're talking about magnets. We touched a little bit on this yesterday when we were talking about static electricity, or I guess 2 days ago, but we're going to dive into it more today. So magnets are used for lots of different things. You probably have seen magnets either in your house on your refrigerator or in our classroom on our whiteboard. So sorry, my cat's being obnoxious. So we know that it can be used to hold things up. We know that there are toys out there that use magnets to kind of connect together and build on each other. So we're just going to learn more about how magnets work. So magnets attract to metals. So you're not going to see like a magnet necessarily attract like a leaf of a plant or something like that. Magnets are made of materials that contain iron, nickel, and cobalt. The strongest magnets use certain types of cobalt. So, if it will load. Okay. So if you've ever used a magnet, you know that one of two things can happen when you put a magnet to an object. Either the magnet is going to cause that object to move, or the magnet is going to cause nothing at all to happen to that object. And so basically what happens is that magnets produce literally like a field of force, like a force field that's called magnetism. And so the force that a magnet puts out allows certain objects to either be pulled towards it or pushed away from it. We can't see the magnetic field, but we can use magnets to kind of see its effect. So like if we have iron shavings, then we can kind of put a magnet close to it and it'll kind of trace out what the magnetic field is and what the pattern is. But magnets can either attract or repel other magnets. If it's a magnet getting put to something that has no metal in it at all, like a leaf, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to be nothing. So you're only going to see that magnetic force field work if we're looking at an actual other metal material that can be attracted. So all magnets have two poles. They have two sides. There's a north pole and there's a south pole. And the poles of the magnet are the parts where the magnetic field is the strongest. So the south pole of a free hanging magnet is always going to point north, and this is how compasses work. So as long as a compass is not close to other magnets, then the point of the compass is always going to point north. Sorry. So magnets usually are labeled with their poles. So the North Pole usually will have an N and the South Pole will have an S, or the North Pole will be red and the South Pole will be blue or black. But there are some magnets that don't have the poles labeled. So if you have a magnet that has them labeled, you can use that magnet to figure out what the poles are on the other magnet. So two magnets that are exactly the same are not going to attract. They're going to push against each other. They do not want to be close together. So if I needed to find out, I'm going to take my magnet that's not labeled and I'm going to put one end close to, say, the south end of the other one. And if it's pushing away from it, then I know that's the South Pole. If I flip it over and I have what I now think is the North Pole going to the South Pole, they're going to pull together and they're going to attract. So opposites attract in that scenario. And that's how I can kind of figure that out. But those are the two ways that magnets are ever going to react. They're either going to attract or they're going to repel. They're going to push away from each other. So magnets can actually make other things magnetic as well. So like if you put a magnet to a paper clip and it's a pretty strong magnet, that paper clip is now going to become magnetic too, and it's going to be able to attract other paper clips. But when it's but basically this happens because magnets attract those certain metals like iron, nickel, and cobalt. And so when they stick to those common materials, they can sometimes cause that kind of chain reaction of magnetism. you can use that to actually separate materials as well. So like in junkyards, they have those gigantic magnets that go over all of the junk because they know that it's going to attract everything that's metal and it won't attract the things that aren't. And so they actually sort things in the junkyards based on metal or not metal by using giant magnets to sort things. So let's go over our key points. I know this is a kind of short lesson today. So characteristics of magnetic materials, they can either attract or repel other magnetic materials. Every magnet has a north and south pole. If two magnets come together, the north pole of one magnet and the north pole of the other magnet are going to repel each other. The north pole of one magnet and the south pole of the other magnet are going to attract together, and vice versa. And magnetic materials are like nickel and iron and cobalt. So there you go. Hope it helps.